All right, everyone, welcome to our webinar, NFB Newsline in the Classroom. I wanted to make you aware of a couple of things in our chat box. If you take this webinar, please take our survey. It'll be in the chat box and also in the description in our YouTube video. We have other professional developments coming up in April and May, so please check those out. And if you have any questions during the session, feel free to type them in the chat box. So I will hand over the presentation to Liz. Go ahead.
Hey, well, thank you, Conchita. I'm glad to be here to talk to teachers about how they can use NFB Newsline with their students, not only as a way to access more content, but also as a way to learn and practice more assistive technology skills. So my name again is Liz Wisecarver, and I'm the NFB Newsline coordinator for the state of Texas. We do a lot of training and outreach programs in the state of Texas and incorporate NFB Newsline into pretty much everything we do. We really make it a part of our programs. So I've worked with young children, transition age kids, all the way up through seniors, so a little bit of everybody, and hope that this will give you guys a good idea of what NFB Newsline is, and hope you get some ideas about incorporating it. So there is a slideshow that is available for you guys to check out with some information. There's also some links to resources about NFB Newsline on the slideshow. Our National Director of Sponsor Technology, Scott White, is actually on this call as well. So at the end, he'll be available to help answer questions too. And you're welcome to contact our national office if you have future questions about the service, if you need applications, if you need how-to booklets and things like that. So our number is displayed there. It is 866-504-7300. And our website is nfbnewsline.org. Next slide. So a really easy question, what is NFB Newsline? And funny enough, NFB Newsline has so many different things on it that this really easy question can kind of get muddled if you're not careful with it. So the way that I like to describe NFB Newsline is a free electronic information system that's available to anyone who's legally blind or print disabled. Our subscribers have access to over 500 up-to-date publications, as well as other information and features. The full publication list is available online, and it's also linked here on the PowerPoint. I've tried to keep my own updated list of it to have it in Braille, and Scott actually told me that, well, you can try it, but it's going to get out of date pretty quickly. And I didn't believe him at first, but that was absolutely true. About a week later, I looked at it and there were 3 more publications added, and another couple of weeks there were 5 or so more added. And so my list went out of date. So it's best to refer to the online listing to see all the new things that are being added. Things are added very frequently on NFB Newsline. So this service is made possible by sponsorship by the National Federation of the Blind and by state sponsors. This is a program that was created by blind people to solve a problem that blind people face, which is access to printed information. And so it's a really good example of how blind people can facilitate solutions to the problems that we're facing. Next slide. So I want to talk about the types of information that are available to your students once they get subscribed. So there's over 500 up-to-date publications. So currently there are 13 national newspapers, and these are publications like The Hill, USA Today, The Wall Street Journal, national publications. There's 33 breaking news sources. So those are things like BBC, CNN, NPR, but then there's also things like Android Central and Apple Insider, which I know a lot of young people enjoy keeping up to date with. There are 17 international papers. So these are things like The Guardian, China Daily, Japan Times. These publications are available in English, so your students can see what is going on in other parts of the world. There are over 70 magazines, and y'all, there's literally something for everybody. There are a ton of different interests and hobbies and all sorts of things that are represented through our selection of magazines. A couple that I want to point out in particular, one of our newer editions is the Stone Soup magazine, which is a magazine published for children that includes essays, poetry, and stories and artwork by children. So that's a really good resource, particularly for maybe, younger kiddos. They might even spark an interest in writing and decide to try to submit to it. So that's a great resource for our teachers. There's also things like the Smithsonian Magazine, ESPN Magazine, Reader's Digest, Rolling Stone. I had one young man who was a senior at the time at the Texas School for the Blind when we were doing a workshop there. And he said, well, I live on a farm. Do you have anything for farming? And so I was actually able to tell him about the Successful Farming magazine. So lots of different interests that'll spark your students' interest there. We also have state newspapers. So for you guys in Maryland, they'll include things like the Baltimore Sun and the Capital Gazette. You also have access to all of the other state newspapers. So your students may have families in California or Texas or Oklahoma. They're able to check out what's going on with those publications. There are currently 5 Spanish language newspapers on the system, and you can also set the telephone options to Spanish as well. You'll always have access to today's edition of the paper, yesterday's edition of the paper, and the last major issue, which is usually going to be a Sunday paper. So it's definitely something that's kept very up to date. These publications are updated in real time and they're completely unabridged. So it's not a situation of us choosing which articles your students might be interested in or which types of things blind people might like to see. It's literally everything that those newspapers and magazines provide us as part of their content. Next slide. So in addition to those types of publications, there is other information and features that are available on NFB Newsline. There are weather alerts and forecasts. So these are based on the subscriber's zip code or on their GPS location if they're using the NFB Newsline mobile app. And they can really help with not only knowing what the weather is, but also safety. I know me personally, I've been in this situation where there's an emergency weather alert on the television and it starts making that very lovely sound that it makes, and it says the following counties are under a severe weather watch. If you're not able to access that print that's scrolling on the bottom of the screen, that weather alert doesn't do a lot for you. But with NFB Newsline, our subscribers are able to pick up the phone or open up the app, and that active weather alert in their area is the first thing that they'll be able to see. Another thing, I had no idea, you guys, how involved weather listings were until I started using NFB Newsline. And a lot of the kids really enjoy that. I've signed up a few youngsters just based on having that weather access and those different indexes that they can check out. So there's not only forecasts for the day and the week and hourly breakdowns, there's also things like the barbecue index and the surf index. And there's even astrological information for things like what moon phase it is today and when Venus rises and sets. So definitely something that can not only be applied for like daily living skills of just knowing what the weather is, but even science and research in that regard. One of the most powerful features is the job search feature. Our subscribers have access to literally thousands of different customizable job listings from Career Builder and USA Jobs that they can access in an accessible, easy to use format. They can use the telephone and use the keypad on the telephone to customize the job searches to show a particular zip code anywhere in the United States. They can choose the type of career they're interested in searching. So maybe it's education or entry-level jobs or hospitality. They can choose that type of career. They can choose if they need a part-time job, they're looking for maybe a little extra money, or if they only need a job for the summer, they could pick full-time, part-time, seasonal, contract. They can even pick the salary for those jobs. So these job listings from Career Builder and USA Jobs, they include all of the jobs that are listed on that search engine. I've had people ask, well, are these special jobs for blind people? And I'm not exactly sure what a special job for a blind person might be, but these are not any kind of a curated job. These are literally all the jobs that are available through those search engines and all the information that the employer posts. Once the student finds a job that they're interested in, they can actually email themselves a copy of that job listing so that then they'd be able to refer back to it later, maybe show, a teacher or vocational rehabilitation counselor and be able to apply for it. So this is definitely an application that's not only good for maybe older transition age students who are looking for some work, but also younger students who perhaps are doing projects on different vocations or looking at career days and having to decide what types of things to look at. There are also custom TV listings up to 13 days in advance. Users can jump to a specific channel, a specific time or date, and look at what shows are on. The system will even read the description of the television show if the cable provider included that. And so it'll do things like tell you if it has audio description, if that was included as part of the show description, which is really handy. There are also retail ads that are customized to your zip code from Walmart and Target. Around the holidays, we actually add a lot more so that people can have access to more shopping information. And so that's a good way to incorporate maybe some daily living skills kind of situations for students, just that they have more information available to them like their sighted peers. There's also the National Federation of the Blind's national channel, where the NFB can post information that's useful for blind people, things like the Braille monitor, presidential releases, and future reflections. I do want to just briefly mention future reflections. For those of you teachers and parents who aren't eligible for NFB Newsline, you still can access future reflections on nfb.org, and I'd recommend you check that out. That's a magazine that is specifically written with parents of blind children and teachers of blind children in mind, so it's a very nice resource. But your students who sign up for NFB Newsline will be able to access it through the Newsline system. And so I've had people ask, well, why use NFB Newsline instead of, maybe using the internet or using just a reader or things like that? And what I've found through my own personal use is that NFB Newsline is a really clean interface. You don't have to try to muddle through a bunch of pop-up boxes and clicking on checkboxes or radio buttons or ads. It just gets you straight to the information that you're wanting to read. So it's a really customizable sort of tool that you can use. So that's a great resource to add to your students' toolbox. Next slide. So how to register and who's eligible for NFB Newsline. So this service is available to anybody who cannot read traditional print due to a visual impairment or some physical disabilities. So a physical disability includes certain types of dyslexia or things like perhaps MS, where the subscriber may have difficulty lifting up the publication to be able to read it. So it's available for free for anyone who is legally blind or print disabled. There's no age limit on it, so we can definitely sign up younger kids. Bree Osbin, who just presented to you guys about using a slate and stylus, she told me that she's had her NFB Newsline account since she was 8 years old. So they can definitely get signed up and start using it along with a parent or teacher to begin learning how to use it. And then as they get older, they can begin using it independently more. You can get registered by calling your state library service. They are able to register people for NFB Newsline. You can also call our national office for assistance with that. We do also have the application that you can download from our website and fill out to mail in, or it can be filled out online. There's links to that here on the slide. After that registration is processed, the new subscriber will get codes for their NFB Newsline account. Those codes will be used to access all of the different platforms for NFB Newsline. If your student thinks that they might be registered, or if they were registered and they've lost their codes, you're able to call our office and we can assist in looking those up for you. We can also sign up educators who don't otherwise qualify for NFB Newsline for the service as a demonstrator. So you could get signed up so that you're able to actually show your students how to use the NFB Newsline system. It's a bit of a different process since it's a special account that is monitored a bit more closely. So you'll need to speak to someone at our national office to be able to get that particular application and to talk a little bit more about what that process looks like. The material on NFB Newsline is copyrighted, so we do want to respect that material. And we ask that our subscribers don't share the material with other people that are not eligible for the service. Also, a situation that happens is one person may be eligible for the service and they might have another, a spouse or family member who's also eligible for NFB Newsline, but we do not want people to share their codes, even with someone who is eligible for the service. We want to make sure to get people who actually are qualified for it signed up for NFB Newsline to show the need for it and to make sure that we're not sharing that copyrighted information with folks who, they don't really need NFB Newsline because they're able to read traditional print. Next slide. So there's multiple ways to access this Newsline content. Your student can pick the technology that they prefer using. It's also a really good way to practice other assistive technology because it's a really clean, easy interface. It's something that they won't be able to break and something that they'll get success with quickly. So I know of several people who have used NFB Newsline to teach other technology skills. So here are the ways that you can actually access the information on any type of telephone. So that can be a landline, a smartphone, an old school cell phone, any type of telephone that your student is able to dial, on the NFB Newsline mobile app for iOS, online, on portable book players, on the Amazon Alexa, and through email. So our subscribers can actually switch between these platforms as they wish. Maybe in the morning they're getting ready for school and they want to listen to a magazine and just have it read aloud. They could call in on the telephone and let it read it aloud. Maybe later on they need to get to a piece of information quickly at school. They could switch to the NFB Newsline mobile app on the iPad. You can also put it on multiple devices. So for example, if a student maybe has an iPad for school and then an iPhone that's their personal iPhone, they could put the codes on both of those devices and be able to use NFB Newsline on them both. Next slide. So I want to talk just briefly about each of the platforms. So the telephone method was the first way of accessing NFB Newsline, and it's very, very easy to use. It just simply uses the buttons on the telephone. And so as long as someone can dial a telephone, they can use the NFB Newsline telephone method. Once someone calls in, they'll hear what's called the main menu, and it will tell them exactly which button to press. And so you'll hear things like For newspapers in your state, press 3. For newspapers from another state, press 5. For job listings, press 9. So it actually just tells you what you need to press to get to the content that you want to read. Subscribers are actually able to create favorites lists. So maybe they don't want to scroll through all 500 publications to find their hometown newspaper. They're able to mark that as a favorite, much like a bookmark on a website, so they can jump straight to it. They're able to skip through the articles. They're able to pick a specific section. And just like a sighted person isn't going to necessarily read a newspaper cover to cover, your students don't have to either when they get signed up for Newsline. They can skip around to the thing that they want to see. There's also what's called a spell feature in NFB Newsline on the telephone. So since this is not a recording of someone reading, our subscribers are actually able to interact with the text. So they can use their keypad to move by sentence and by word, and then actually make the system spell out a word they're looking at. So that really supports literacy even more than just using audio, that spell feature. The voices are customizable. You can switch the pitch and increase or decrease the speed. Once those settings are made, they're actually saved on the subscriber's profile. Another really useful feature that is available on the telephone method is the global search feature. And this allows subscribers to use the keypad to type in a word or phrase, and then search the entire NFB Newsline system for that word or phrase. So let's say that your student has a report to do on marine biology. That student could set up a global search with the phrase marine biology, and the system would bring back hundreds of different articles from all of the magazines and newspapers with articles that include marine biology. The student could then scroll through those, and when they found something that they wanted to use, they can actually hit #9 and email a copy of that article to themselves that they can then refer to for their project. There is a tutorial on the telephone method. Just so you guys know, it's going to be under option number 1 off the main menu. And it is also online on nfbnewsline.org and linked on this slide. Next slide. So NFB Newsline Mobile is available on the iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch. It's another way to access that same information. There is the global search feature, like we talked about on the telephone method. That global search feature is also on the mobile app. The cool thing about that is you're able to actually type in the words using the iPhone keyboard. The iPhone and iPad, since they have location services, they can use the GPS service to give the subscriber information on the weather of the area that they're at. So for example, if I came to visit you guys in Maryland, I could open up my NFB Newsline mobile app on the phone, and it would actually show me the weather and the weather alerts that's going on there rather than the weather that's back home in Texas, because it would see that I've moved. It also shows your nearest address on the home menu. So that's just a helpful way for students to gain access to their location. You can also pair these devices to electronic Braille displays and then read NFB Newsline content in Braille. And that's, again, another way to reinforce literacy skills. And that's also a really great option for deafblind students to be able to read that content in Braille. Next slide. And so this slide just shows a few screenshots of the NFB Newsline mobile app. There's the home screen and a list of magazines and a breaking news article, just so you get kind of an idea of what the display is. And you'll notice it's really simple text-based, and that means that it only takes a few voiceover gestures to be able to make that text be read aloud. So it's a good way for your students to practice voiceover, particularly if they're new to using the iPhone or iPad. You're also able to email copies of the content to yourself from the NFB Newsline mobile app, and even post the breaking news articles directly to social media to share with other people. Coming soon, we're going to be adding capabilities from the KNFB Reader app to the NFB Newsline mobile app. So the KNFB Reader app is an OCR, which is an optical character recognition app, so that users can actually take a photo of printed text that's in front of them, like maybe a worksheet or a letter, and that text is then converted into speech and read aloud. The KNFB Reader app is currently a paid app, but very soon there will be elements of it added for free to the NFB Newsline mobile app. So our subscribers will have even greater access to printed text. Next slide. So users can also access NFB Newsline online at nfbnewslineonline.org. This would allow them to then use the screen reader that they want to use on this very simple text-based website that's secure. You're able to navigate and do searches for the same material that you want to read on the website. You're also able to email yourself content. And since it's a computer, your students could actually pair refreshable Braille displays to the computer and then read the content in Braille. Next slide. Portable players. So these are portable digital talking book players like the Victor Reader Stream and even the talking book player from the National Library Service. The Victor Reader Stream is particularly easy for subscribers to download content on. It's a really great resource for students in general. The Victor Reader Stream second generation has wireless internet capabilities, so students can just download the content from Newsline directly to the book player. They use DAISY files, so students are then able to skip between the markers on the text to different articles or sections, just like they'd be able to do on the other platforms. And again, the Victor Reader Stream is a really nifty device for students. It's able to play books and text files, and able to do things like record. So students could do things to record like lectures and class assignments. There's more information about using digital talking book players on our website. Next slide. The Amazon Alexa skill is the newest addition to our NFB Newsline platforms, and people have been really excited about this one. So with the Amazon Alexa skill, subscribers are able to talk to their Amazon Dot or Echo or other devices that have Alexa on them, and just use their voice to recall the content that they want to read. And so for NFB Newsline on the Alexa skill, I could ask it, Alexa, ask National Federation to read Houston Chronicle. And then it would begin to read that newspaper for me. I can also then say things like skip to next article, change the voice, read a little faster, read a little slower, and be able to adjust those settings just by talking to the Amazon Alexa. There is a help feature on the Amazon Alexa skill that you can access, and it'll go through all of the different commands. And there is also a help little web page that we've put together that's linked on this slide and available on nfbnewsline.org. Next slide. Email. As I've mentioned, you're actually able to email yourself content from these different platforms. Even the Amazon Alexa skill, you're able to ask Alexa, email me a copy of this article. So that way your students will have access to the content later on, and they'll be able to go through it and do what they need to do with it. This includes any of the magazine articles, any of the newspaper articles, job listings, any of the content that they'll find on NFB Newsline. You can also set up recurring emails. So I could, for example, set online and set it to email me each time the New York Times is updated. Now, I would get a ton of emails if I did that. I've actually done it before just to see what it'll do. But I'll literally get emails each time there's new content added to that publication. So that's another way of accessing that news. If there's not an email address on your student's account, you can call our national office to get that added, or if a student changes emails, that can also be changed really easily. Next slide. And so this slide just kind of is reviewing some of the things we talked about, some of the ways that NFB Newsline can be used as a tool for your students. So it'll help them keep up to date with current events, and it'll also broaden their conversational topics. So just by being able to read more information about sports or current events in their hometown or cooking or whatever types of things they're interested in, they'll have more information at their disposal that then they can talk about with peers and teachers and use in projects. The global search and email features are going to be very valuable for students. The global search will allow them to search the publications for a specific topic, and then they're able to email themselves the content to then cite in papers or use for anything else they may need it for. Having access to this information also just helps students understand the structure of a newspaper or a magazine. I've actually heard from several folks who have been blind since birth and maybe didn't have access to reading a full newspaper as a kid, and they're really surprised to see how much more content there is in a newspaper versus listening to it on television or on the radio. So it'll help reinforce those types of literacy skills as well. They have access to thousands of job listings. And of course, if they're searching for a job, that's invaluable. It's also great for them just to be able to know what a job listing contains, to be able to research what types of skills do employers expect me to have when I'm looking for this kind of job, what kind of pay ranges can I expect, and just to be able to be more conversant in vocational content. The spell features and the ability to pair the devices with Braille displays really helps to improve literacy. That one I think is pretty direct. They can read in the way that they choose and be able to actually read with their fingers in Braille to really actually be seeing what the words are rather than only listening to them. And then of course, all the different platforms offer a really easy to use interface that you can practice with your students for different assistive technology skills. And they'll get success quickly and have things to look at that they're interested in and not have to deal with lots of pop-ups and lots of distractions. Next slide. So this is showing the screenshots of the iPhone app again. I just wanted to briefly, oh, you hush. I wanted to briefly do a demonstration of the NFB Newsline mobile app on the iPhone, just to give you kind of a better idea of what that'll sound like. So I'm going to be using VoiceOver, and we'll go in and find the New York Times. All right, so I'm gonna
3:34 p.m.
I'm gonna unlock my phone.
NFB Newsline mobile. Heading.
And it actually said, attention weather alert. So I'm on the home screen currently for the mobile app. Since I'm using VoiceOver, I can flick and then double tap to select the information that I want to look at once I hear it. I'm going to flick right a few times just so you can kind of see the home screen. There is also a screenshot of it, and see what that weather alert is that's active in my area.
Publications. Button. TV listings. Button. Weather. Button. Welcome Liz Wisecarver. You are near 901.
And then so it's actually showing my address like I talked about.
Current watches and warnings include flood warning. Button.
And so
Tap here for further detail.
there we go. I can tap on that for more information about the flood warning. I'm going to go back up toward the top of the screen and double tap on the publications button to get to all of the different publications.
NFB Newsline Mobile. Publications. Button.
Okay, so I'm going to double tap, and we're going to see an alphabetized list of all of my favorites.
Public. Home. Back button.
Okay, so I'm going to swipe right.
Publications. Heading. Your favorites. Table index. Search for a publication. Search field.
So I could type in there
Double tap to edit.
what I want. I'm going to continue to flick right to this alphabetized list of my favorites. The favorites are handy because now I don't have to search through all 500 publications to find New York Times.
Hyphen. Heading. My newspaper. All content. A. Heading. Affiliate news from the NFB of Texas. Latest information. All recipes 04/01/2019. Apple Insider 05/01/2019.
And so you can hear it reads us the title of the publication, and then it's telling us the date of the most recent edition. I'm going to make the router gesture, which is kind of like turning a little knob, and we're going to find headings. Once I find headings, I'm going to flick down with one finger to go to N to find New York Times.
Characters. Words. Headings.
Okay, so headings. Now I'm going to flick down.
B. Heading. C. Heading. H. Head. J. Head. L. Heading. N. Heading.
There's N. So now I'm going to flick right.
New York Times 04/25/2019.
And there's the New York Times. So I'm going to double tap to open it.
Select publications. Back button.
And now I'm going to flick right.
New York Times. Heading. Remove this publication from your favorites. Button.
And so that's a toggle. Since it's on my favorites, I could double tap it and take it off of the favorites. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it and swipe right.
Current issue 04/25/2019.
So we're on today's edition.
Full paper. Button.
So that says full paper button. I could double tap that and it would display the entire publication. But I'm going to continue to flick right and find the different sections. We're going to go into the sports section. You'll notice it also tells us how many articles are in each section.
Business/financial desk 12 articles. Classified 15 articles. Editorial Express 1 article. Foreign desk Metropolitan Movies. National desk Obituaries. Personal text Science desk Special section. Sports desk 11 articles.
All right,
Button.
so I'm going to double tap.
Sections. Back button.
Now it's showing me all 11 of the articles in the sports section.
Sports desk. Heading 2019 NFL Draft Preview. The long and the short of it. Heading level 3.
So that's the title of the first article. I'm going to swipe right just so we can kind of see how this article will look.
By Benjamin Hoffman. On February 28, the people invested in Kyler Murray's future breathed a sigh of relief. Oklahoma's Heisman Trophy winning quarterback had been officially measured at 5 feet 10.125 inches.
So we're looking at an article talking about a QB's height. I can also navigate by headings again by doing that router gesture like we did with the letters. And by then flicking down, I can see the titles and navigate to all the other articles in this section. So I'm going to do that to show.
Links. Headings.
Okay, so we're on headings. So now I'm going to flick down.
Beating Jazz. Rockets head to second round. Heading level 3.
All right, so that's talking about my Houston Rockets. I'm going to go down again.
Damian Lillard's deep buzzer beater gives him 50 points and Portland a series win. Heading level 3.
And so that's how you can navigate to different articles within the Newsline mobile app. So again, I think maybe I used 3 or so voiceover gestures just in this quick demonstration. We used flicking left and right, flicking up and down. We used the router gesture to find headings, and then we double tap to open things. So there obviously are more gestures, and you can do more things with the app with different gestures, but it's something that's really pretty simple to use and a good place to practice voiceover as well as get your information. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this demo because I think we could be getting short on time. And Conchita had wanted to open up the floor for questions. And I hope this presentation was informative and gives you a better idea of how to use NFB Newsline.
Thanks, Liz. So we don't have any questions right now. You have about 15 more minutes or so. If you want, you can continue the demo. Okay. Or we can end whatever you think would be best.
Sure, I'm happy to show some more. So let me get the phone back. So I do want to show a little bit more of how to navigate in the NFB Newsline mobile app. So I'm going to go back to the home screen, and we're going to then find Stone Soup, which is not listed in my favorites list. So up at the top left will always be the button to go back to your previous screen.
Sections. No sections. Back button.
So it says sections. So if I double tap, it takes me back to the New York Times
Sports
sections.
Desk 11 articles. Publications. Back button.
Hit back again.
Home. No service. Step home.
I'm gonna hit
back
home.
Button. NFB Newsline mobile. Alert. Heading.
Okay, so we're all the way back on our home screen, the way it would appear when you first enter the app. You heard it did say attention weather alert again. So it definitely wants to let me know that there's an active weather alert here where I'm at. So Stone Soup is a magazine. So I'm going to hit publications again to get access to all of the publications. And then we'll go into the publication options button to find the list of magazines.
NFB Newsline mobile. Publications. Button.
Okay, I'm going to double tap.
Home. Back button.
So we're here again with my alphabetized favorites list.
Publications.
And as I swipe right, that's what it would show me. But rather than going into that favorites list, I know that Stone Soup is not there. So I'm going to go to the bottom of the screen and find the publication options button and double tap that.
Publication options button.
Okay, there it is. So I'm going to tap it.
Public alert. Publication options.
And so it's brought up a list, and I'm going to just flick right and hear what my different options are.
Global publication search button.
So that's global publication search. If I wanted to set up a search for something that I needed to do research on or that I wanted to learn more about, I could double tap here and actually type in the word or phrase and then select which types of publications I would like content from. So I'm going to continue to swipe right.
All publications button.
All publications will just show me a big, long, alphabetized list of all 500 publications.
Favorites button.
That's our favorites again.
Magazines button.
And there's magazines. So I'm going to double tap on magazines, and it's going to bring up a list once again, just like we saw when we first went into publications.
Home. Back button. Publications. Heading. Magazines. Table index. Adjustable.
You can also use this table index. I'm going to go ahead and use headings again because that's just the way I prefer to do it.
Characters. Adjust value. Headings.
Okay, so headings.
A, C, B, B. Heading. C.
And I'm
heading.
just flicking down with the headings, and it goes to each letter.
D. Heading. E. Heading. F. Heading. G. Heading. H. Heading. I. Heading. J. L. M. N. O. P. R. S. T.
So here's S.
Heading.
So now that I'm in S, I'm going to flick right.
Science News 04/13, Shape 05/ Smithsonian 05/ Sporting News 04/ Spry Living 05/ Stone Soup 05/01/2019.
So there's Stone Soup. So I'm going to double tap.
Publications. Back button.
Okay.
Stone Soup. Heading.
So I'm going to flick right.
Add this publication to your favorites. Button.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and tap that button that said add publication to favorites. So double tap.
Alert. Edit favorites. Are you sure you want to add the publication Stone Soup to your favorites?
Yes.
Cancel. Button. OK. Button.
Okay, so I'm going to double tap OK.
Publications. Back button.
And now that Stone Soup is going to be in my short list of favorites that opens up right when I go into the publication button. So I'm going to swipe right and find full publication.
Stone Soup. Heading. Successfully added public current issue 05/01/2019.
So since it's a magazine, they're not published daily. This one looks to be published monthly. So we've got
Current issue.
the current issue on.
Full paper.
Okay.
Button.
So I'm going to hit full paper. And now it's going to just show all the
Back
articles.
Button. Editor's note. Heading level 2.
So one of the features that I haven't talked about yet is you are actually able to use Voiceover to read all. So I've opened up this publication, and let's say I just want to read the whole thing and just see what kinds of stories and information are on it. I can actually use 2 fingers and swipe down to read all. So I'm going to start that just to hear what it will sound like. So I'm going to use 2 fingers and swipe down for read all.
Editor's note. Editor's note. Often, the work in our issues is just as concerned with animals and the natural world as with humanity and civilization, not by choice, but by necessity. It reflects our contributors' interests. But, in this issue, people and civilization, cities, cars, castles, are the main subjects. Patrick.
Okay, and I paused by using 2 fingers and just tapping on the screen. So I wasn't having to touch the screen to make it continue reading. It would read the paragraph and then proceed to the next part. You're also able to email yourself the articles from the app. So I am going to use the rotor gesture again.
Links.
And it said links, which is what I wanted. And now when I do a flick down, it's going to show me links.
Stonasuck.com. Stonasuck.com. Email me this article.
There it is.
Link. Table start.
So I'm going to tap email me this article.
Email me this article. You should receive your requested content shortly at Wisecarver at nfbtx.org. Link. Back to content. Back to content. Button.
And that says back to content. So I'm going to Conchita?
There you are. I don't know what happened. I couldn't hear you for a second.
Hey, I'm sorry. I got a phone call. So sorry about that. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I tapped on email, it said you should receive your content shortly. And then it just gave me an okay to return to the content. So those are some of the more useful features on the iPhone app. Did we have any questions, Conchita? Or Scott, did you have anything you'd like to add?
Nope, there doesn't appear to be any questions. But Liz, thank you so much for doing this. This is really helpful. This video will be posted on our YouTube channel, which is in the chat box, as well as emailed to everybody who registered for this session. So thank you again, Liz. And if anyone has any questions, Liz's email will also be in the email, so you can contact her directly. Thanks so much, Liz.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I hope this was helpful for you guys, and happy to chat with anybody about other ideas.
Thanks.